I am too slow at reading. Now, I know it's not a race, but here's the thing, I'm a fantasy fan. And if you're into the genre too, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Chonkers, massive books. Books so big that if you threw them at an army of orcs, they'd scatter in terror, convinced that Gandalf himself had summoned a meteorite. Here I am trying to get through one of these tomes while my TBR list grows higher than the wall in Westeros. But this is it. No more procrastination. I'm testing out the best speed reading hacks to learn how to do it in the next 24 hours. But before I can even get started, I need to figure out what my current speed is, so first I'm going to set a timer for 10 minutes and get reading. So it seems that without any fancy tricks, I can read at the snail pace of 5 pages per 10 minutes. That's 30 pages per hour, which means it's going to take me a whopping 46 hours to finish reading Rhythm of War. But it's okay, because this is the last in the series, right? Oh good, only 6 more to go, meaning I might just finish them by the time I'm 80. If I ever want to catch up with the Cosmere, then I'm going to have to get training. And we'll start by tackling a little thing called saccadic regression. This is something our eyes love to do, something that absolutely slows us down. It's like trying to walk down the road, but every step you take, you get compelled to take 2 steps back. Well, it turns out our eyes are programmed to make quick, jerky jumps and go backwards, unnecessarily wasting precious time. The worst part is, the more tired you are, the more your eyes think,
"Let's do that again."
We've all been there at night, dropping off and taking in the same line so much that you could have read the chapter 3 times over by the amount of times you've taken in the sentence that is now permanently etched in your mind. So how do we fix this? By using our first hack, of course. Apparently all you have to do is use a pen, your finger or a stylus, and move it under the text line by line. This simple trick stops those cheeky eyes from wandering off and gets you locked in a steady rhythm. Bonus tip, as you get better, you can speed up by moving the guide faster. But does it actually work? Only one way to find out. Let's set the timer. Alright, that was a lot more structured and I actually felt more immersed doing it, but did it increase my reading speed? Well, I managed to read 7.5 pages in the 10 minutes that I tried, and that might not sound like a lot, but I've actually upped my per hour page count to 45, which means I will get through this book in 34 hours, so I'm actually quite impressed. But can I use this next hack to leverage the power of my brain and boost my speed even further? While our eyes might be the mischievous rogue of the reading process, our brain is ready to step up as the valiant knight in shining armor. But like any good hero, it needs training. What most of us don't realize is that the brain can take in multiple words at once. Don't believe me? Let's prove it. Stare into the middle of this sentence. Even though the letters are jumbled, you can still read it, and that is because your brain is forming logical groupings and doing all of the heavy lifting. By focusing on one part of the sentence, you are able to absorb the entire thing like a magical scroll of comprehension. And that brings us on to our next hack. This one's about training your brain to break sentences down into 3 to 4 chunks instead of crawling along word by word. Rather than dragging your guide across the entire line, just tap those key chunks and let your brain do its thing. The idea is to keep your eyes focused on where they need to be while training yourself to absorb information faster. Right, let's put it to the test. Okay, I just did another 10 minutes of reading this book, and I've got to say, I am very impressed. In that time, I managed to read 14 pages. That's 84 pages per hour, and that means that I have slashed my original reading time down by over half. I could finish this thing in 16 hours. So it's starting to look like my dream of catching up with the Cosmere is no longer wishful thinking, it's actually possible. But there's still one thing that's slowing me down, and it's probably the most frustrating of them all. Have you ever been trying to read and found yourself in this situation?
Have you heard about that bloke on the telly?
No?
He's only gone and had a kid with her.
I
I wouldn't have a kid with her, would you?
trying to read?
Oh, sorry. But seriously, she's just not right for him.
All you want to do is spend some quality time with Bridge 4, but instead you can't hear yourself think because of mindless chatter. What if I told you that you don't even need that annoying person, because your brain, which we've established is capable of so much more, does the talking instead? Ever been staring at the page, apparently reading, but your mind goes on a tangent, and before you know it, you have no idea why Harry is stood totally naked at King's Cross Station? First page of chapter 35, not even a joke. Either way, your mind wanders, but that's not the only issue. Your entire reading experience is being slowed down because for some reason your brain insists on consuming the words on the page at the speed that you speak. It's called subvocalization, and it rapidly reduces your chances of getting through any chonkers you might want to take on. That's why this next hack is designed to silence the mind and strip away any useless thoughts that your brain might try and generate. All you have to do is hum while you read, which might look a little something like this. This one was kind of confusing. I managed 16 pages in the 10-minute timer. That would make it 96 pages per hour, and I would finish reading this book in 14.5 hours. The only trouble was I was focusing so much on humming that I actually kept losing my place in the book, and my enjoyment was cut down considerably. So while I might have shaved off 90 minutes, I'm not sure this is one that I'm going to use, because the reason that I'm doing this experiment is so that I can read more books and enjoy more stories. And I really just didn't get that fulfillment on this one. So let's see if this next one can push all these methods into overdrive without ruining the reader experience. This next hack seems like the most challenging to master. Our brains can do this thing called top-down processing. This means it can fill in gaps based on context, clues, prior knowledge, or keywords. And as writers often structure content with ideas that are in predictable places, you can use this ability to your advantage to take in more words in less time. That's why this hack is to look at the center of each sentence and allow your peripheral vision to do the rest. To make this even easier, I'm going to tap the middle of each sentence so my eyes can follow. My head's kind of hurting after this one, but I'm shocked at how effective it's been. I managed to read 17 pages in that time, and that means I'll be reading 102 pages per hour, which cuts the reading time of this book down to 13.6 hours. That is the fastest I have ever read anything, but it does come with some considerable setbacks. I found it very challenging to maintain the speed, and my brain was working so fast that I've actually come out of it feeling quite dizzy. Sure, I could spend a bit of time building up that stamina, but there's something else that was affected that's kind of put me off doing it again. My reading speed has been boosted, but my actual comprehension of the words has taken a massive hit. It's like the faster I go, the more the picture in my head looks like a pirated film. So I'm hoping that this next hack will help me go faster, but still allow me to enjoy the story. It's based on a little thing called neuroplasticity, or as I like to call it, the brain's get good mode. These are neural pathways that, with enough training, can adapt to new patterns. The more you practice, the stronger they get, like leveling up in an RPG. So what's this got to do with our next hack? Well, I think this is one that everyone's secretly tried at least once, but this time it's all about speed. And before anyone tells me that it doesn't count, remember, my goal here is to read more stories faster. So if you want to debate relevance, please save it for the next council in Rivendell or Reddit. The method is simple. Just listen to an audiobook while reading the source material. But don't just listen. Crank up the speed. It's like running on a treadmill. Once you get comfortable with one speed, you push it to the next. Start at 1.2 times the speed. Then once your brain is keeping up, bump it to 1.5. Then again, 1.7, then 2. Just rinse and repeat. I've actually been using this method for a year already, and I've managed to get myself to 3 times the speed. But don't worry, I will run the experiment anyway, just to get the official numbers. This might be the most interesting result so far. You remember how I said I could do things at 3 times the speed? Well, that was kind of at a push. But I have just managed to comprehend 3.5 times the speed without any difficulty. And I think that the final result kind of explains why. I managed to read 10 pages in 10 minutes, which means that I will complete Rhythm of War in 23 hours. Much slower than my last few attempts, but it actually meant that I was able to enjoy the story, which is what means the most to me. So if you're looking for a faster way of reading, then this might be the best avenue. But the more books that you manage to read, the more you're going to want to consume, and as a first-time fantasy reader, it can be tricky figuring out where to start, so I did some research and managed to find the top 10 fantasy books to get started with, and you can find out what they are by clicking on this video right here.